Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So I wanted to do a video on CGC 9.8 comics to invest in for 2020. And, a little bit of a contrast video to a video we already did about a kind of a short list of 7 comics that were CGC 9.8 comics that were guaranteed to go up in value. With that video, I was thinking more of a long-term type of time horizon. Certainly, I kind of explained in that video kind of 15 to 20 years at least for those classic books to kind of steadily grow in value. So that was my thinking on picking that short list of 7. For this video, though, I feel like these books have more things going on in 2020. There's more interesting things to talk about. They're not I'm not really recommending to go buy them right now type of thing. Some of them I think I will, but others, something might be happening right now in 2020 that you maybe want to hold off till a little bit later. So more things to talk about for this list, I think. And I got 11 books here too. So 11 CGC 9.8 books. And yeah, talking more about strategy for 2020 rather than like, these are the comics to invest in 2020. I know there's a lot of those kind of videos out there, but okay, so first book is a book I don't have, but I want to talk about. It's Amazing Spider-Man number 210, first appearance of Madam Web. This is a book that I've I haven't really made a video about it, but I have recommended it in the past on the channel in the last year, and as a book that I wanted to buy, and I've tried to buy. So Amazing Spider-Man 210, first appearance of Madam Web. There was an announcement, I believe, that Madam Web is, I believe, going to have, it's either a Disney Plus series or a show or something's going on with Madam Web for sure, with Marvel. And it's a really good underfollowed first appearance, I think. Like in the CGC 9.8, we'll talk about prices because I tried to buy one kind of in the last 3 months, I would say it would be. About 3 months ago. There's 101 CGC 9.8s, so I remember, yeah, this was under 100, but I think with those announcements, that probably brought on another 10 or 20 9.8s with a bunch of people, kind of hearing that announcement and hunting for this issue and sending it to CGC. CGC 9.8 ratio is 18.3%, so under 20, which, this is an older book, so it's not like the best CGC 9.8 ratio, to be honest, for like this old of a book, but still a decent one. So, yeah, first appearance of Madam Web, an underfollowed first appearance. If you look in the Overstreet price guide, it's not even singled out as a key issue. It's just sort of in the run of books, worth the same amount of money in the run of books. And this is another book, too, where 101 9.8s, the price difference between a 9.6 and a 9.8 is large. There's not a lot of 9.8s out there, and I think there's just a lot of people that really want this book. So I tried to buy this book in an auction about 3 months ago, and it was maybe a month after those announcements came out. So I knew I was going to put in a competitive bid, but I pretty much had a feeling I was going to get outbid because it was after the announcement, and it was an issue I'd been hunting, but I just didn't pull the trigger on it, and I didn't see any auctions in the CGC 9.8 white pages for it. But so I bid on that one. I believe it was like $710 I bid. I was hoping that the bidding would kind of stay under 7, and then some brave soul would maybe bid over like 702 or something. But that didn't happen. Ended up selling for like 750 something. So somebody probably literally bid like $800 even, maybe, who knows exactly. But so an expensive book. This is an expensive book. There's not a lot of them out there. 101 the CGC 9.8. I think with this Disney Plus series, though, you could probably hunt for this one and look at grabbing it before the series really picks up steam and heats up. There's another book here that's very similar to this one, I find, that we'll talk about too, that I'll kind of recommend as well as a really great book, really great first appearance, but there's some kind of promotion right now. So, first book, Amazing Spider-Man 210, first Madam Web, one that I don't think a lot of people think about in this era of Spider-Man, but certainly with those announcements, there's, I think, potential for it to heat up a lot more, even though I'm not the type of collector, I think, to just get right in there and buy, books after a promotion or an announcement. But, we're in a bit of a lull after the announcement. I think that announcement happened about 3 months ago now. Yeah, so. Okay, Amazing Spider-Man 210, first Madam Web, first one on the list, one I'd recommend. Second one is a Batman 404. Where are we at here? This box, I believe. Okay, so Batman 404. I had just read some articles about. I think it was from on comicbook.com too, so kind of a main sort of comic book gossip site, I guess. But they were talking about the Batman movie, and the rumors right now are that in the Batman movie, like Robert Pattinson has to sort of build his bat suit, basically. And I talked about in videos before that obviously Robert Pattinson is a young guy, so it's probably a decent shot that there's going to be some year one type vibes in the movie. I'm not saying it's like a year one copy or anything like that, but the more I'm reading, as I said, just read that they're having him in the movie like craft his first Batman suit kind of thing. So he's like just starting out, essentially, is what it sounds like, year one. So I think Batman 404 is one I've kind of recommended in the past as just a sweet, timeless Batman book. Yeah, there's 549 CGC 9.8s in the blue label. Quite a lot out there, but certainly not anywhere approaching over 1,000, which a lot of key issues are. 28% the CGC 9.8 ratio. Not too bad for like an 80s Batman book. You'd like to see it lower, but for Batman books, there just wasn't as many printed, so they're just more likely to be in better shape than sort of Marvel books or Amazing Spider-Man books, I find. Price on this one, grabbed mine for like $109.70 something, so $110 in an auction I think is a really good price. For a really nice one, super perfectly centered with great Lincoln colors and a new case and everything, like I'd pay upwards of $150 for that, to be honest, if I just saw it. And it looked really great and crisp, no pages kind of sticking out the side. This one, a little bit of pages sticking out the side. This is the one I purchased for $109. But still a great fresh copy. The pages are super white, super flat. Still a really nice copy. Yeah, so Batman 404 at around $100. I would say 110 is going to be about the cheapest you can get, but up to 150 I think is a good buy. Certainly, the more I'm reading about the Batman movie, and it just kind of makes sense, like Robert Pattinson's super young, so for Batman anyway, for Bruce Wayne. Okay, next book is definitely a lot to talk about in the current environment for this one. It's Batman Harley Quinn. The origin and first appearance of Harley Quinn in DC continuity with the classic Alex Ross cover. Great color, that just a cover that just grows on you over time. For me, it did. I thought initially I was like, oh, it's so plain and like, but it's almost like the Mona Lisa. Like it's plain, but just you look at the facial features and some of the shadowing details, and Alex Ross just does painted covers so well. So yeah, CGC census really quick for this one. 867 in the CGC 9.8. Super popular character, you kind of expect it with this one. It's a late 90s book, so it's one of the more issues out there approaching 1,000 in the late 90s, because that is kind of like the comic book recession when it came out. But such a classic book. Birds of Prey, just heating up here and about to come out in theaters soon. This is a book I wouldn't really look to grab it now. I thought I grabbed this one in a new case. Talk price. In a new case, I grabbed mine for $290. And I think that is, in a new case, a nice looking copy toward the lower end of fair market value. So, maybe in an auction, one slips through at $290, because up to this point there has been a lot of movies with Harley Quinn, and you still might be able to get a decent deal on this book. But overall, there's really no rush, to be honest. So, I would kind of recommend just wait until like later in the year, like, maybe at the end of summer, fall, winter of this year. Birds of Prey will have come out on digital by then, and like nobody will be talking about it, and most people will probably at that time be talking about like Venom 2 and The Batman, which is coming out next year, I believe. Still though, it's just a classic issue. I mean, all these books, despite what's happening in 2020, they're just great investment grade books, I think. Yeah, I'm really glad I picked that one up for a good price in Canada too, with cheap shipping, which was nice. And yeah, first appearance, origin of Harley Quinn. That classic Alex Ross cover is awesome. So next book on the list here is an Avengers 196, a book I don't have, and talked about it on a couple of videos in the past. First appearance of Taskmaster, first full Taskmaster. Great cover, George Perez cover. So 185 of these in the CGC 9.8, not a lot out there. 10% is the CGC 9.8 ratio, so out of this whole list, except Amazing Spider-Man 300, which is kind of a one-off, to be honest. This has the lowest CGC 9.8 ratio, which is, I think, for me, kind of the reason I really, really want this now. And I've really, really drilled down that I wanted it in the last month or two. But even though we're in such a promotion-filled environment, so the Black Widow trailer dropped. I believe Black Widow comes out early March, possibly, maybe April or something. So right now there is possibly an opportunity for a lull before the movie comes out, if you can find this on an auction, or if someone maybe newly graded it and wants to get rid of it right away in an auction or a buy it now best offer. So looking at some pricing information for Avengers 196, about 10 days ago, one sold on eBay for $898 in an auction. CGC 9.8 white pages, looking pretty good. Not perfectly centered. It does have a white back cover, so along the spine, the centering shows the back cover a little bit on this one. So it wasn't a perfect one, but $898. So that is my sort of target price for this book. I think that's a pretty fair price given the promotion, and the trailer just came out. Before that trailer, I was seeing them in the sort of 600 range go in an auction. So $650, $680, maybe over 700 for maybe a really nice looking newsstand one or something like that. But I think about the cheapest you're going to get now is $898. So that's kind of my target price. Before this Black Widow movie comes out and really starts heating up, in the next month, I kind of want to drill down and see if one of these pops up in an auction that I can grab for around $900. Because, I think with that 10% CGC 9.8 ratio, that's really low, and there's only 185 of them out there. It kind of reminds me of an Uncanny X-Men 129. That's first Kitty Pryde, an Uncanny X-Men book. It's 9% CGC 9.8 ratio, so a little bit lower, a little bit more rare. The lower the better. It's got over 200 in the 9.8, so a little bit more copies. So very similar book, but that book I saw go for 1,300, 1,200. And I think Avengers 196 is kind of headed into that price. Almost, I think it could be there permanently and, stick around there for quite a while. So whoever got that auction for $898 on an Avengers 196 CGC 9.8 white pages, I think that's a pretty good deal in this environment, and I'm kind of targeting that. If I can't get anything when the movie's out, I'm not going to grab anything during the movie. I don't think you'll get a deal during the movie. There's just too many kind of noobs being drawn into the market, so the prices are so high. So if I can't get one before, I'll wait until fall, winter kind of. Okay, Wolverine number 88 is the next one on the list. And this is kind of a book I've recommended quite a bit as one of my really affordable, underfollowed CGC 9.8s that you can aim for if you're really on a budget. And yeah, some catalysts, I think, in 2020. Just the census year, 69 CGC 9.8s. Most of them are in the deluxe edition, which was the well-printed one. There's the normal edition, which I believe there's probably only 10 or 20 of those on the out there in the CGC 9.8, and I saw those go for 300 to 400 in price, whereas this book's around 100 to 120. People are kind of telling me that they're going for at this point. 52% CGC 9.8 ratio, a 90s book, so there's just not a lot of them out there. You can't really expect it to be too low. Yeah, so I mentioned the price. I had been talking to some people on the team through Instagram and things about they're trying to grab this issue. And they were trying to be picky with price around $100, and then some people came in at around $120 and ended up just purchasing it, kind of thing. So yeah, this issue is just creeping up a little bit, I think, and maybe if for a really good looking one in a new case, expect to pay about $120. If you see it in an auction, if you're really patient on the searches, I think you can get it below $100. One I purchased for $99.99 as a buy it now, maybe 6 months ago now, and then the other one I got in an auction in Canada, really lucky, for $58 Canadian, I think it was. So I got a screaming deal on, I believe it was this one too. Yeah, the one that says deluxe edition. So it's a newer graded one too, just a screaming deal. But yeah, people on the team let me know, people kind of paying about $120 for these. Yeah, so 2020, the catalyst is Deadpool and X-Men coming back to MCU Disney Productions, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, from Fox, where I believe they were being produced before. So, big possibilities of Deadpool and X-Men being in the same movie through the MCU, so you get Wolverine, and yeah, just a lot of possibilities. Still speculating, I haven't heard anything really, but, being that, like, the first Deadpool movie, you had Colossus in there, a couple of X-Men appearances and cameos in the first Deadpool movie, so I think that'll just be times 10 if, because there is that connection with Deadpool and X-Men, with Weapon X and things like that. So I think if there is a Deadpool movie in the MCU, there'll be so much more X-Men type crossovers, and maybe Deadpool and Wolverine fight, and if that happens, this book will definitely not be what, it's going for now. Yeah, sticking around $100. I think if Deadpool and Wolverine duked it out on camera in an MCU Disney movie, that book will be worth a lot more. So yeah, worth it in 2020. I don't think there's any movie coming out in 2020, but you want to position yourself before the movie. So buy now when there's no promotion, and maybe in a year or two that Deadpool X-Men movie comes out, and you can kind of enjoy the prices during that time, maybe. Next book is in the same ilk as Wolverine number 88, Incredible Hulk 340. One we've talked about a couple times. I got 4 of these in the CGC 9.8, so one of my favorite issues, certainly. And this is the second time Hulk and Wolverine fight. A really good way, a kind of an affordable way to play sort of Incredible Hulk 181. If that's kind of out of your price range, you can grab a 9.8 white pages version of this for about $420, I would say. For a really, really nice looking one, like kind of getting up there for $420, pushing $450. But considering Hulk 181 prices, that's not bad for, perfectly looking one. There's 689 CGC 9.8. It's a 14.3%, the CGC 9.8 ratio, which is a really good kind of investment grade ratio for a late 80s book. And so same deal a bit with Hulk. Actually, there was that announcement a couple of weeks ago with Hulk coming back to the MCU as well. So MCU can produce standalone Hulk movies. So that, I think, is a positive. And obviously X-Men coming back, which I explained. And so lots of potential for maybe Wolverine and Hulk to duke it out on camera. Maybe even more so than Deadpool and Wolverine, because Wolverine and Hulk fought in Wolverine's first appearance in Hulk 181, so it's so classic. Like, I could totally see them, making a movie about that, because it is just classic Marvel. Like, there's no more classic story than first Wolverine when when Hulk and Wolverine fought. I think again a story similar to Wolverine 88, where I haven't heard like any imminent movies coming out in 2020. But you want to buy before the promotion heats up. Position yourself before it happens. Next one, Amazing Spider-Man 300. And also, really quickly, Amazing Spider-Man 316, because I want to relate this to the Venom 2 movie. That's supposed to be coming out later this year, I believe, late this year. So if you're on a budget, this book's really expensive in the CGC 9.8. Amazing Spider-Man 316, which is the first cool Venom cover in the CGC 9.8. You can kind of get that for like $275, $300. So that's kind of the budget one. But the investment grade one to grab, certainly, I think, is Amazing Spider-Man 300. It's really rare on the CGC census. Todd McFarlane cover, classic cover. It's been cover homaged a million times, which I think is really important for this book just being a good investment grade book. So Venom 2 is coming out later this year. I think you're definitely not going to want to buy when that first trailer comes out, kind of thing. So now is the time to buy. Now is the time, as good of a time as ever, I think, to grab an Amazing Spider-Man 300 in kind of any grade you can, really. In the CGC 9.8, so there's a 1008 CGC 9.8s in the blue label. And that 9.8 ratio I talk about a lot. It's 5.9%. So low. The lower the better. So 5.9% of all graded Amazing Spider-Man 300s are CGC 9.8s. And that's so low. Like, the lowest of this list by far That second lowest was 10%, that Avengers 196 first Taskmaster, which is kind of why I got really turned on to that book. I always thought it was a great George Perez cover, but when I saw it was really good on the census too, I'm feeling like I want to dip into the hype of, even though he's in Black Widow. But yeah, you know what? I don't think it's the best time or anything to buy Amazing Spider-Man 300. You know, since that Venom movie came out, and there's been a lot of Spider-Man promotion, which affects this book, I think, too, in the last year. You know, the best time would have been, 3-4 years ago, before nobody really knew about the Venom movie kind of thing. And this book was just probably kicking over $1,000 at that point. So prices, I paid for this one, a really, really nice one. Notice kind of really crisp red background, nice colors, very well centered, no pages sticking out the side or anything. Yeah, this is a really nice one. I grabbed this for $1,980 with like $1,750 shipping to Canada, so got it to Canada for less than $2,000. A Prime copy I thought was a good deal. I've seen them go for a lot more, like Prime ones. I've seen them go for like $1,200, $1,100. Auctions lately, saw one go for $1,900. Saw one like maybe a month ago now go for $1,790. It was in the CGC 9.8 new case. Was looking pretty good too. Maybe not perfect, but still looking pretty good. I think, if you maybe in an old case in an auction, you maybe can grab this for like $1,600. But they are, for a really nice looking one, it's basically about $2,000. And even that, you'll probably have to be patient. But around $2,000, I think. And there's only 1,008 of them for such a popular, this is the first full appearance of Venom and origin of Venom. And, the first classic, cover that was homage, that's been homaged so many times. This is the original Amazing Spider-Man 300, Todd McFarlane with the circle. So, yeah, a book, not the best time to buy, I think, as I said, but it's definitely not going to be the best time to buy later on this year with Venom 2. So if you do want that book, it's a great book, investment grade book. It's pretty much the 80s book I would recommend to have with that super low CGC 9.8 ratio. It's so relatively rare. Like, the facts don't lie. So that's why I really like that one, even though it's really expensive. Next one, Amazing Spider-Man 361. Yeah, really quick, because I brought up some doubles. So I do have two of Amazing Spider-Man 300. Yeah, this one too in an old case, but colors are pretty much just as crisp as this one. Yeah, I kind of got those deep red colors, very well centered. No pages sticking out the side on this one. Yeah, this is yeah, a really nice one too. And I also got doubles here. Newsstand, direct. So, Amazing Spider-Man 361, very similar to some of the things for 2020 that I talked about with number 300, maybe even more so with this book, first full appearance of Carnage, because it's, Carnage is going to be in this Venom movie, whereas in the first Venom movie, he just kind of cameoed right at the end, so he wasn't even really in it, so he's going to be kind of the main character in this next one. So, yeah, I think this is a book from the 90s, 90s books, early 90s books, this book being one of them. Very well printed. There's a lot of them on the census. Really quick, it's 3,323 CGC 9.8s in the blue label. So that's the most out of this whole list by far, pretty much. Except New Mutants 98, which is another early 90s book. So, CGC 9.8 ratio, 27%. Not too bad for an early 90s book. But this book, I think this is the classic 90s cover. It's like, over time, I think, even though there's a lot of them out there, it's just going to be known as like the classic 1990s cover to have. Personally, for me, over, New Mutants 98, even though that's a really cool one too. I just think over time, Bagley, Carnage, and Spider-Man, first full appearance of Carnage, this one. There's a lot of them, but I just think it's really classic. So yeah, if you like this book, you kind of want to buy. I think right now is the time to be hunting them, because once that first trailer drops for Venom 2, whenever that's going to be, the prices will go up. And yeah, for newsstand versions of this book, during Venom 1, I'd see them in auctions like pushing 500 all the time. Like there was one seller that had a bunch of them in the newsstand and was posting like almost new ones every week. and they would sell for about 500 in that environment of you know, symbiote movie being out kind of right now. So yeah, you want to buy now, position yourself before the movie. You know, one of those examples for Amazing Spider-Man 361. Price on that, yeah, little over 300 for the direct version. Like for a really nice one, really nicely centered, like 350, I think would be a fair price for a direct. Newsstand version, really nice looking one, 400 for, you know, a fair price, I think, for a really nice looking newsstand. You know, with these 90s books, there's always a chance to get a really good deal out there, I think, because there's 3,000 of them out there, 3,323. You want to be patient on this one, you know, don't, you know, for a newsstand, I wouldn't really look to pay over 400 unless it was perfect. So yeah, just be patient because there's always more popping up in auctions because there's so many out there and people want to get rid of them, and at times they just tend to flood the market. So if you're patient on Amazing Spider-Man 361 and about centering and just look for the perfect copy, you'll probably be a lot happier with that one. And yeah, who knows, like maybe it's a decent time to maybe load up on a couple now, and then when that Venom 2 trailer drops, maybe start selling them for in buy it nows for a lot more or something. You know, that could be a decent strategy. But I just love Carnage, and I'm holding mine for a really long time. Next book is one I just picked up, and I thought I would add it on the list because it's such an underfollowed, cool book. It's Green Lantern 141, first appearance of Omega Men. So Omega Men, kind of, you know, they're a team, superhero team, anti-hero team, kind of, I guess. And I sort of compare them as like the Guardians of the Galaxies, possibly of like DC. But certainly no promotion, you know, that I know of for Omega Men, you know, in sort of live action type movies at all. But I think a lot of potential. I think a very similar situation to kind of Guardians of the Galaxies for Marvel before they came out. The average person, you ask who like Gamora was, or, you know, nobody knew who Guardians of the Galaxy was. But, you know, now you kind of do. And, you know, certainly if you're in the comic community, you definitely know who Guardians of the Galaxy is. In Omega Men, you know, I wasn't really aware of them very much. I knew them from their first Lobo, which was Omega Man number 3. First appearance of Lobo, which is kind of a key issue that's out there that a lot of people like. So I kind of recognized them from that. But yeah, I think a bit of a speculation, but I think Green Lantern 141, first appearance of Omega Man, whether it's like a really nice raw copy or in the CGC 9.8, there's only 31 of them out there in the blue label, so tough to track one of these down. I paid $325 for this one, which I thought was probably a little bit of an elevated price, but considering there's only 31 out there, CGC 9.8 ratio is 18.8. There's not a lot of these graded, so that's why that's not super low, but it's still under 20. You like to see that at least. And yeah, I paid $325 in the CGC 9.8 white pages. You know, maybe if you're super patient, you see one of the 31 that are out there on the planet, and you can grab it for under $300. But I think it's a first appearance that not a lot of people are going to think about ever, and maybe worth speculating here early in 2020 for possibly a movie, you know, coming in. Certainly, I wouldn't think in 2020, but again, you do want to position yourself before all these things happen with really cool comic book characters and awesome key issues. And that's a George Perez cover too. This that Green Lantern 141, really classic Green Lantern cover by George Perez. Next book, had it sitting here. So New Mutants 98, yes. In the CGC 9.8, first appearance of Deadpool, and you know, this book, for similar reasons of Amazing Spider-Man 361, a lot of these printed on the CGC census. There's 3,061 CGC 9.8s. 20% is the CGC 9.8 ratio, which I use New Mutants a lot as like kind of the bang-on average CGC 9.8 ratio. Kind of average to getting toward investment grade, anything under 20. So this is kind of right on the edge, and with that 3,061 CGC 9.8s, there's a lot of these. And this, yeah, obviously similar story to Wolverine 88 for 2020, you know, MCU getting the Deadpool rights, so going to be some Deadpool movies coming out in the next 5 years through MCU, I would imagine, like 100%. So, again, kind of want to position yourself before all that promotion starts. You know, this is a tough one, though, because it really has kind of just marched down in price steadily since that first Deadpool movie came out, to be quite honest. And I think it has a lot to do with that it's an early 90s book, and there's over 3,000 of these, 3,061 in the CGC 9.8 blue label. So you put those two together, and yeah, when it blew up to about $1,000, maybe not, maybe there was a couple that went for 1,000, but almost $1,000, let's call it, during that first Deadpool movie. Now in the direct edition, a good deal is kind of $650. And a good deal in the newsstand is kind of like, $750, anywhere, I would say around $750 for the newsstand version. Definitely a candidate to get the newsstand version because there's so many printed, so newsstand version's more rare. It has the barcode here instead of this 50 years of Captain America symbol. Get the newsstand UPC barcode here. A little bit more rare. Generally, newsstand's about 20% of the print initially. So this is a book I would recommend the newsstand. But yeah, new Deadpool movies from the MCU are going to come out, so I think, even though you don't really want to kind of buy a downtrend very often, but I think this is such an iconic character, Deadpool, that, if you can get it direct for close to 600 and, maybe a newsstand around 700, I think those will look really good long term, and, maybe these books will be soft for about another year or two, but once some trailers start coming out with Deadpool and some whispers about, who's is Ryan, I'm sure pretty soon it'll be Ryan Reynolds is back to play Deadpool in the MCU. That'll be a gossip article in 2020 possibly, right? Because, yeah, all that kind of gossip starts sort of a year or two before the movie comes out at least. So, yeah, an early 90s book, so a lot out there, and, but this is one, along with, First Carnage, the 90s books that I would really that I would recommend, I would say, along with Batman Adventures number 12, too, first comic book appearance of Harley Quinn. Those three, because, maybe be pretty selective with 90s books because they're so printed, and there's always, over 1,000 on the census in the 9.8 usually, so don't usually like to see that. But, last book here, number 11 book, Savage She-Hulk, number 1, origin and first appearance of She-Hulk, not one that I do not have. Lots of, interesting things kind of happening with this issue because late last year there was an announcement that there's a She-Hulk Disney Plus series that's coming, which I think is really pretty cool. So this is a book that, it shot up in price off of that. I saw about 10 of them, I would say, in that week sell for $550. And they have since come down to about $400, I would say, right now. Looking on the census, this is a 1980s book, so a really old book, pretty much, quite an old book. There's 1,811 CGC 9.8, so that was surprising. That's a lot, I think, for a 1980s book, certainly. 31% is the CGC 9.8 ratio, so that's a high ratio. And it kind of makes sense now that the market really flooded after that announcement, because this is a book that you could kind of easily pick up in the CGC 9.8 for a good, cheap price. Because there's 1,811 of them out there. And, so I'm sure a lot of people had that in mind. And then it's one, because there's a lot out there that you could get rid of, too, if some announcement or promotion happened. And yeah, it was really odd that 1 week after the announcement, literally 10 or 20 of them sold within a week, basically 5 days, let's call it. And that, I hadn't really seen that before. A lot of times, a lot of books will pop up on eBay, but they'll be super high, expensive prices, so nobody will really go after them after a big announcement, not as aggressively as this book, I just thought. But for me, you know what? This is one I would pretty much just recommend to lay off of. It doesn't look good on the census for me. 31% CGC 9.8 ratio for an 80s book is not, that's pretty high. That's not good. For a 1980 book, it's pretty much a 70s book. So 31% is really high for that age of a book. 1,811 9.8s is really high for that age of a book, too. So it's, 400 to 425 I've seen them go. I think one went for 450 I remember seeing in the last month here, let's call it. So I'd probably personally wait for, if you wanted this book, for it to come down to 350, 300 again. Or just, literally, I'm sure it'll heat up again during the She-Hulk series, especially if it's a big hit. But it doesn't look good on the census for me. There's way more books from 1980, 1981 that I can imagine right off the top of my head that would be like such better buys around that price too. But yeah, so with Savage She-Hulk, it would just be one that the promotion's heated up and it doesn't look that good on the census, so it would be one that I would pass on, unless you really like She-Hulk and you're super nostalgic for She-Hulk, then, and you're attracted to the art of that book or something like that, then go for it. But because, yeah, right now, after that announcement, it went up to 550 in the CGC 9.8 white pages, seeing them go for really close to 400 now, so I think right now there is a bit of a lull, and if you did really like this book, it probably is a decent time to buy, although probably wouldn't recommend it. Okay, that's the 11th book so I wanted to make a video about, CGC 9.8 comics to invest in for 2020. And again, my other video, thinking more long-term, this video, I didn't really want to have like a list of 7 or 8, or, I just wanted to think of things that were happening in 2020. And even some honorable mentions like the Eternals books. Certainly Eternals #1 in the CGC 9.8 book heated up quite a lot, and I think Eternals is coming out this year. So that could kind of be an honorable mention book, but to me, Eternals isn't too iconic. There's a possibility, I think, for that movie to kind of come out and do okay, and then just they might never come out with one again, or maybe they come out with a sequel, but then that's it, and then it just goes away forever almost. So, I could have included an Eternals on the list though, but I think covering some interesting topics that could happen in 2020 or are happening now, so maybe you want to wait on some of these books. And I really like to think about that when you're buying some of these CGC 9.8 books, because that could be the difference between like getting a decent price or like overpaying a lot if, say, like if right now you just went on and bought an Avengers 196 versus Taskmaster. I think the lowest CGC, the lowest price on the net right now was like 1,380 or something and I think it was in an old case too. So if you just did that and then went out and bought that, it would be an overpay. So you don't want to do that. Be patient on all these. Sometime, right now, certainly for that Taskmaster issue, not the best time to buy. Other issues like the Venom and Carnage first appearances, Amazing Spider-Man books, I think are really good buys right now before the inevitable Venom 2 movie comes out, and then the inevitable Into the Spider-Verse movie comes out, and another book, honorable mention, that could have been on this list is Ultimate Follow #4, the first Miles Morales. I've talked about that book quite a bit lately. That Into the Spider-Verse movie, the #2 is going to come out eventually, and the first one was such a big hit, and Miles Morales has not been in sort of a live action movie yet either, so much potential for that book. And even just talking about it, I probably should have put it on the list, but alright, that'll do it for this video though. CGC 9.8 comics to invest in for 2020. If you haven't already, I invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. Hit the bell, get all our latest notifications. Add me on Instagram. I got all the links in the description below for all that stuff. That'd be super appreciated. And really thankful for all the support I'm getting, all the comments and conversations I'm having on Instagram and stuff like that. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.